All right, so by my watch, it is 7 p.m. So we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's start with a moment of silence, please. And we would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, City Clerk Domingo, would you take the roll call, please?
Councilmember Reed. Here. Jackson.
Here.
Waller. Lanu.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Snyder.
Here. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Any comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson.
Yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we'll start off with a presentation from representatives from our school board. It's not Becky Jones, but we do have two alternatives. If you folks want to stand and, give everybody your names, your positions, and then the floor is all yours.
I'm Kelly Fitzpatrick. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Marshall Public Schools. This is my first year, so I was principal at Gordon Elementary prior.
And I'm Gilyard-Schnaitman, and my official role is payroll, but I've kind of taken on the job of doing whatever Becky needs and helping with community outreach and communications and stuff like that.
All right. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we're here really just to make sure that you are aware and have access to a really dynamic resource that we've developed in association with the current bond that is being proposed and is being voted on November 2nd. So the district has developed an informational website that has so many different things that people are looking for, and we've heard that people want access to. So that would be the survey information from whether it was the staff and parent and teacher survey that was done last academic year, the first survey that was the online survey, and then as well as this most recent survey. All those not responses, but the data from those are available, as well as all of the details regarding the bond application that was submitted to the state. Enrollment information that's available through public reporting, but sometimes people don't really know how to navigate that My School database. So we've posted enrollment data for both Harrington over the last 10 years, including by grade and as a whole school, as well as the rest of the district. So we have our frequently asked questions page that we've kind of gathered information and questions from our 2 forums so far that we've been trying to answer and post those questions and answers. And then we kind of nicknamed it debunking, just because sometimes there's information that we might hear or that we see through social media or things like that, that we kind of common misconceptions is really the aim there. So that website can be accessed through our school district's website. It's really easy. It just says the word bond. It's one of the tabs at the top. So it's really kind of the one-stop shop for any and all information, and it's all linked there. So we just wanted to make sure that the council had access to that and knew how to speak to that, because we really do believe that the best voter is an informed voter, so that people can do their own research, right? And if they have questions, look for answers there. So I said everything again. I talk way too, we're like supposed to be this great team, and then I start talking. So I'm so sorry.
Just one thing that, that led to that website is, we have 3 goals, three of our goals are really transparency and communicate and to listen to all of our stakeholders, whether that be city councils, other businesses within our communities, service organizations. We really want to stress that we want to be as transparent as possible. And so when someone comes to us and says, we don't think you're being transparent, well, we can point to this website that has all this information on it. And if we don't have that information on it and they say, well, we want to see this, this, and this, we try within, 24 to, 36 hours to find that information and get it on our website. So we can get that information out there. Because Becky, one of Becky's goals is we want to be transparent. We want to communicate, because what makes us a stronger school district by letting everybody in and working as one big partnership team. So whenever we hear that we need to do better, we try to do better. And so we want to lean on our community partners like yourselves to get that input of what we can do better and get that information out. So we really appreciate this time to hear from you guys on what you've heard from our communities and what we can do to get the information out there that needs to be out there.
So before I open it up for questions, and I forgot to mention, somebody's cell phone went off, if we can make sure that all cell phones are on silent, turned off, council members, make sure that all cell phones are put away, so that we don't have them as an interference. So just trying to be mindful of that. And so at this point, we have council members that have questions for these two in regards to the bond. Councilman Mooney.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I'm curious, you mentioned the debunking and maybe some frequently asked questions. Are there anything, in particular you're hearing more of that you want to kind of share some responses to, concerns that have been raised that you want to make sure that people are hearing through the platform we have here tonight?
Great question. There's been questions about lots of different items, and we really, the website's been kind of up and functional for about a week and a half now. One of the things was our graphics. It's really hard to condense information down into a singular graphic. And sometimes, when we look at an enrollment with a mathematically calculated trend line, or we have a color, kind of a summary of our bond, there may be, assumptions made about what color, whether it was red or black or something. So some of those things are the things that we're trying to educate people the most on, is that we're just educators trying to inform people as best as we can. So I would say that a lot of those really small questions are a lot of misconceptions. Really.
And really, it's almost like a full-time job in the social media world we're living in, is that someone could hear something someplace and then it spreads like wildfire. And so we're like, if we have this debunking tab, whether debunking is the right word, truth setting, it gives us the outlet to correct that in real time, or as close to real time as possible, so we can get the truth out there.
One of the things I think that is mentioned the most on that page is what actually goes into a bond and what can't be part of a bond. So like maintenance, there's a little bit of a social commentary about maintenance. We actually can't fund maintenance through a bond, right? That's what sinking funds are for. So there's this idea, well, you don't have maintenance built into this bond. How are you supposed to do that? Like, oh, well, actually, that can't be part of the bond. So it's some of those things, like what happens to the marching band uniforms? Well, uniforms are viewed as equipment, and equipment can't be, funded by that. So some of those pieces, I would say, actually, now that I think about it, are a lot of those debunking, when you're like, well, why isn't this in there? Oh, well, actually, it can't be, because school bonds can only be for certain things.
Thank you.
City Manager Smith.
Just for the record, can you please state the official website so that everyone who's here and then viewing the meeting has that?
It's marshallpublicschools.org. And then in the upper banner to your far right, you'll see a tab that says bond. And that'll open up into our bond page with our individual tabs within the bond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Williamson?
I was just gonna ask, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges to passing this bond in both Marshall and Albion right now?
I think that any time that we try to look at a bond, we're looking at it as always answering the needs of the district. So when you look at the diverse needs of the district, whether, we have close to 3,000 people in different buildings, at different ages, including people who are related to people who, don't have children in the building, so it's educating those people. So it's a lot of that.
And Shane, I think you know me, that I like to say what's on my mind, and I think a big challenge is community building. We, in our communities, we have groups of people who have very strong opinions. And it's our job to make sure that our stakeholders have the correct information and getting the word out there that we are one community. And the stronger our community is, the better school district will have. And we need to learn how to lean on our stakeholders and listen to our stakeholders. And so that's a big challenge for us as well, so.
And it takes a lot of trust to listen or to kind of hand over, when we talk about band instruments or something like that, to look at the band director and say, okay, you're the expert as far as what we would need in that area. So to hand that idea over to that person and say, these are the instruments, that we would need at these levels and in these classrooms. So to do that with any aspect of the bond is difficult to say, okay, well, these are the experts.
And it has been a 2-year process with our facilities needs, and it happened during a pandemic. And so not everybody could attend the meetings that they wanted to. So it's our job to get that information out there. And I think a big goal of this bond is to make our district equitable across the board, from school buildings to furniture to air conditioning in all of our buildings. So it really is a bond to make it equitable across the board.
Councilwoman?
I have received requests for the community forum, which is mostly to be held virtually for people who own property in Albion but do not live here and would be affected, but they're unable to attend in person. Is that something that you think could happen this month?
Yeah, we just scheduled, just to kind of give you a big picture, we scheduled all Marshall Public Schools virtual forum. And then our goal is to do a Facebook Live event where we field questions, and then whether it be a Zoom virtual committee or forum, we definitely want to get one of those on the schedule too.
So just to be clear, the all MPS, that's our staff and students?
Just all staff.
All staff?
Yeah, yeah, and that's this Wednesday virtually.
And then the Facebook Live?
We're gonna try to shoot to have that next week sometime.
Is that something that you could send to us so that we can make sure?
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we said, one of the things that we try to post and update the most is that website. So right now there's a tab for the forums. So we just posted what the forum is going to look like tomorrow as far as setup. We've had 2 very open-ended forums and a ton of feedback about that style. So we've tried to figure out kind of a way to structure tomorrow's forum so that people can absorb the most amount of information based on that feedback. So we posted the setup for tomorrow's on that tab as well. So we'll make sure to post it there too.
And just because I don't think we do that, so there's a forum tomorrow
Yes.
at 6 p.m. at the Marshall Opportunity High School. Will that be in the library?
So the first half hours in the library, one of the biggest things that we heard from both forums was that people wanted access to coaches and teachers to be able to ask them questions. And so in order to increase the amount of access that people have to those coaches who would be, coaching on the fields, the teachers who would be teaching in the classrooms with the new furniture, all those things, we're having the first half hour be kind of an open house style where there's a little bit of a booth, I guess would be the word I would use, where you could go up to the basketball coach and say, okay, why do we need an auxiliary gym? What does that look like? How does that service the entire community? They'll be able to answer those questions instead of the bulk of the population having to, wade through those topics kind of coming sporadically. And then after the second half, if you want to.
Sure, so from 6 to 6:30 will be in the library, and then from 6:30 to 7, we'll all move to the auditorium, where we'll focus on the elementary school facility here in Albion at the podcast for questions and comments.
Okay, thank you.
So I did take the opportunity to peruse the website, and I was looking at the information that we had on there, especially the survey results. So I know that 2 of the surveys, well, one survey was done electronically, one survey was done by phone. Was the survey that was done with the Harrington parents and staff, was that a paper or was that electronic?
That's a great question. I wasn't.
The paper, that was during Dr. Davis's time, and that was a paper survey that was sent via the mail to parents, and then it was also handed out to all staff members at Harrington.
Okay. So, and I guess, for me as mayor, when I'm talking to community members and we talk about the separate issues that are going on in our communities. For those of us here in Albion, the big thing is a location, where we have citizens who are really concerned that despite all the information that we have in regards to the surveys, that there's chatter because people have been saying the location's already been determined, especially when that information is coming from school board members and can be heard out in public. So knowing that you have 3 separate surveys, granted that the Sienna survey and the first electronic survey are flawed, but nonetheless, in the Sienna survey, you had 314 people respond, 45% responded they had wanted at Watson Street. The first survey that was sent out, you had 449 responses, and you had 249 respond at Watson Street, as opposed to 142 at Washington Garden. The parent survey and the staff survey, you had 54% say Watson Street. So even with all this information, as flawed as it may be, that's the issue that our citizens are dealing with. So I just wanted to see if you had any answers or response to why this is an issue based off of this information.
I think that,
I can speak to that for you.
So I'm sorry,
I think
not
that,
nope, sorry. These 2 are on the agenda to speak. You are not, I'm sorry.
are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh.
Members of the public with expertise are allowed to weigh in. Attorney Marcus, can you confirm that?
I would say that that is sometimes the case as permitted by the council.
So these 2 are on the agenda. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to.
I've just seen it
It's
happen
okay.
before.
It's okay. That's okay.
We don't need this decision.
Yeah, I think that board members are private citizens and school board members, and I'm very thankful that we have a democratic voting process. And so I think that voting process through our school board and their decision, the fact that they're elected members of that school board, and then those elected members vote, and there's multiple people on that board, I think it's what I'm just going to default to. As far as the surveys, you're right, the surveys are flawed. That most recent survey was 1.6% of the available people to survey. But you're absolutely right, of those that were surveyed, that was the response. And then with the electronic survey, you mentioned the flaws there, but you're absolutely right. And that's why transparency is really important. And I'm really glad that we have these public forums where people can speak their mind to inform their elected officials to make their wishes known.
And Mary Garcia, Mary Snyder, one thing that Becky, our interim superintendent, has always told us is that we can't control what people say outside of our office walls. And so I can tell you what is said in our office is that Becky wants to listen to the community, and we're trying to find as many avenues as possible to get that information in. What we know is that we want a first-class elementary school here in Albion. what site is it gonna go at? I don't know, but I take the lead from my leader who says, we need a great school in this community because we deserve it. And it's long overdue. So whether it's Washington Gardner or Watson Street, I personally can't say because I don't think the decision has been made.
We don't own the land. So that's one of those things, like some of the pieces that, sometimes we think in our, some people, I've noticed this with even the stuff I put on the bond website, that I'm accidentally making it sound a certain way or another. Now, it sounds like what you're speaking to wasn't potentially an accident, somebody was making their opinion known. But at the same time, I think that we might conclude things by piecing together evidence out of this just really human desire to fill a blank. And I think that blank really hasn't been filled yet. I mean, both of us are in the office every day, all day, and I'm telling you that blank isn't filled. You don't, the property that I think, or what I usually hear is that people that think that the decision has already been made for Albion. I don't really hear the other way, right? But so that's why I think we jumped to the defense to say, oh no, we don't own that land. So we don't, it really has not been made.
And another outlet of getting communication and listening is that at tomorrow's forum, we're gonna have a board member, a board booth, if you will, where a few of our board members will be there getting input from people who show up. On if they have a preference on one side or the other, that's just another vehicle to try to get more information. And if council has ideas of how we can get information from your constituents on where they feel the school should go, we would definitely want to hear your ideas so we can, it's a tough train to move along, and we want to make sure we do it the right way, and we want to make sure that we get as much community input as possible. And so we would love any input that council has on gathering more information and opinions for sure.
Councilman Wilson?
I was just,
I have my hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. To confirm, will this decision be made on next Monday's meeting, October 11th?
So that's up to the board. In our last meeting, I know the board president had asked different members. It's definitely a discussion point. You know, they have to call the vote. So, you know, Ian and I aren't really in control of whether they call the vote that day, but that's what they had discussed last meeting.
It will be on the agenda,
Yeah.
whether it's a decision made or just a process, you know, talking about the process of finding a location. I'm not sure, but it will be on the agenda.
I have one follow-up question. I recognize I was actually able to participate in some of the facility needs assessment committee meetings, and I realized there's more needs that could be addressed within our district that need to. So I'm curious with regard to Watson Street, if I'm understanding correctly, approximately between 2 and 3 million is going into repairing the roof or replacing the roof. Do you know approximately how much more is needed to bring that building into compliance in terms of, or you know, into a state that it would be sustainable?
And that's a great question. On our website, there's a facilities needs report, and it has exactly line item by line item, exactly what Marshall Island Community High School, right, would need. And so that's one of the nice things about bonds is that as they come in under budget and you can do those additional projects, you know, because equity is so important, we'll be, you know, looking at what we can remedy equity wise, you know, at that building. So I would defer to that line by line item of need established by the committee.
Thank you.
Councilman Wilson?
okay, I have two things. So the first one is just want some clarification is on the Watson Street site from the renderings, it looks like a brand new building. It's not about the actual Watson Street building itself. It's actually about the field area around it and putting in a brand new building. So it's not really, the question isn't really whether we're getting a brand new state-of-the-art school with this bond. It's just whether where it's going to be. And that's a political decision at the board level, right? Am I right on that?
That is voted on by the board, the location. of
Yes,
that
the
one.
location is voted on by the board, right? But I was just being clear that we're not renovating the Watson Street School, the Opportunity High School, for a new elementary school, where it's gonna be a brand new building from all renderings I've seen that you've all put out, okay? So it's not whether we're gonna get a state-of-the-art building, it's whether where it's going to be. The second thing I want to remind everybody is this is the first time in 5 years that this community has had to work with a committee to make a huge school-wide decision. 5 years ago, we were all embroiled in the conversation about whether we were going to partner and annex with Marshall Public Schools, which was an incredibly difficult decision for Albion as well as for Marshall to agree to take us on. So there's been a lot of political stuff going on out in the public, whether it be from school board members or council people or just concerned citizens, which has made, I just would like to say, it makes the bond committee's job 100 times harder. So I want to thank you all for serving in that capacity, because again, it's the first time in 5 years that we've had another committee come forward and have to, take the right and left hooks from the community about all sorts of things. It is one of the hardest jobs you can do, especially on top of your day jobs. So I really appreciate that. And I also am thankful that you're hearing the frustration of the community about some of those kind of non-transparent seeming things. And I want to recognize that I know that isn't Kelly Fitzpatrick's fault, and I know that isn't Ian Gilyard-Schnaitman's fault either. You all are working within a system that you have people above who are doing their business, which leads to making your business a little bit harder. So again, I appreciate your service to this. I hope the best for the bond and really the best for the kids of the Marshall Public School District. I mean, my kids are Marshall Public School District folks, and I'm hopeful for the best for all kids. So again, you are in a no-win situation on a bond committee. It's you're not done until it's done, until you get a bond. So even if November doesn't work, you're gearing up for the spring. And I wish you all the best of luck with that. It is not a fun position to be in, and I don't take that lightly.
We appreciate that, and one thing, going through this process and going through other processes is that we enjoy hearing constructive criticism because it makes us better. And we really do, we strive to be the best coach that we can. And so whether it's good news, bad news, feedback in between, we want to hear it because it just makes us better. So.
And I appreciate the feedback about some of the aspects of the website. And if you come across anything that is not on there, it's amazing. We have never had the discussion of should we post it. It's that we just really, sorting through the 160-page bond application, we didn't really think about, okay, well, people will want to do that. So as soon as we knew that somebody wanted to, great, post it. So anything that you're desiring to know, let us know, because we will try to make it accessible to all, right? Because we found that I could email it quickly to this person wasn't the way to do it. Let's just post it for everybody and in response to that. So thank you.
So I just had one other question. And I'm not sure if this has been brought up in any of the forums. I've only been able to make it to one. Have water or soil samples been taken at either one of the locations?
That's a great question. So a lot of those studies, to be honest, they cost lots of money, right? Which are typically built into the bond cost and procedures. Much like renderings. That was one of the things that we talked about. Typically you have much more detailed renderings, right? Well, because our architects have built renderings for 3 different locations originally, right? That means kind of like a lesser specific rendering of a building because there's 3. So with the soil and things like that, we have multiple locations we're talking about. Lots of money that goes into, historical studies of the sites, the soil borings that go into that. And all of those things need to be done. But we also need to try to save the district and be, responsible fiduciary people. And there are different aspects of that still need to be completed because of funding, really.
No, I was going to say that something that I've learned. This is my first bond that I've gone through, and from being involved with the committee and during the day job, is that a lot of the stuff happens, like the renderings and the design comes after the bond is passed. That's one thing that I've had a hard time with, is that people want to know, well, what's this elementary school going to look like, or what's the 4 additions like Gordon going to look like? And we talked to our design people, and they're like, well, that's when, after the bond passes is when we really get to the nuts and bolts of, what goes here, what goes there. And so I think the land study would kind of fall into that category.
Yeah. And that's really, to be honest, as a curriculum director, where I'm very excited about the future conversations about what the classrooms look like, what the seating looks like, what the building structure look like. I am so excited about those conversations. I feel like we just need to get the location settled so that we can go into all of that, so we can go back to hearing both, you know, the city of Marshall and the city of Albion, everybody that goes to Marshall Public Schools, what they want, all those items that we haven't even yet to talk about, because this one issue has become, you know, kind of the one issue that we're discussing instead of all this other.
And just kind of during all these forums, we hear all this input, and so if a community member rises and says something about, you know, I think the building should be here or there, after the meeting, I like to seek them out and just try to get as much knowledge from them as possible, because I'm not an Albion resident. I grew up in Marshall, and I can't pretend to know how, you know, community dynamics are in our neighbors to the east. So I want to learn, and I want to learn why people who are in favor of Washington Street are so in favor of it, and I want to know why people who are in favor of Washington Garden are so in favor of it, because we need to know why, you know, and that helps with the decision-making process. So all the information we can absorb, I try to seek out and have those one-on-one conversations to try to learn, because I can't pretend to say it should be here or there, and then Becky can't pretend to say it should be here or there without getting all the information. So we really try to reach out to people and learn.
So kind of going back to my question about the
Yeah. Sorry, just as a matter of procedure, presentations are supposed to be limited to 10 minutes.
Oh.
Or no more than twice that, unless the council wants to extend, or mayor can extend it, there's no objection to council, or the council can vote to extend, but presentations are supposed to be limited to 10 minutes.
Well, thank you for that, Colin. I didn't realize that. So anybody else have any other questions? No, so we appreciate your time.
We
Thank you
appreciate
so
your
much.
time. Thank you.
Okay, and so next we have a couple of representatives from our YMCA out of Battle Creek. Good evening. My name is Caitlin Lewis. Oh, excuse me, she's not married. Caitlin Barton. Just got married 2 weeks ago. 3 times the charm. I've been working at the Battle Creek YMCA as our associate executive director for the last 8 years.
I'm Kelly Chapman, and I've worked with the Y as a consultant, also with the Battle Creek Community Foundation, and worked over to help manage some outreach projects.
So Kelly and I are new in front of you. In absence of our CEO tonight, we're going to do our very best to represent Jill Hine and make sure we can cover all the areas of topic that you're looking for. A quick rundown for what recreation has been currently right now. We've had a unique opportunity to serve Albion. So far, if you're not aware, we have served 2,354 residents here with 176 classes since March of this year. That's a pretty unique experience that we've been able to host here, not only at Washington Garner, at the Dow, and at the Bohm. And then this week, we're super excited to announce that we're going to be partnering and doing swim lessons at the Opportunity School. Swim lessons are going to be a pilot program. We are completely sold out. We couldn't be more ecstatic. We opened it on Monday, and by Thursday, completely sold out. We have a waiting list. We're going to start with 1 time a week just to reintroduce what swim lessons mean to our community, listen to what our parents are really looking for, take the curriculum slow and steady. There are going to be 4 students to every 1 instructor, which really maximizes that curriculum and really that support to that student that might be nervous, anxious about the water. Who knows the last time they might have gotten in the water before. So we're really excited to have our staff with us. A part of our staff, which we really want to highlight, is that it's just not made up of Battle Creek and YMCA instructors. On that staff, we have 4 that are going to be, we have 1 Marshall High School student, we have 2 Albion College students, and then we also have 1 Albion resident, along with 2 other backup instructors from our own fitness facility. So we're very excited to see how this rolls. We encourage everyone from the community to come out on Thursday evening. We have it at the Opportunity School, doors are open. We will be there with a lot of our staff rallying and championing, taking lots of photos to highlight. It's very exciting, 39 students that are going to be with us. And hopefully we can triple, double, quadruple that in the next coming months over winter.
but we need your help to do that. So we're only limited, we have the same problems that every other business in America has right now, and that's getting people. So I know I've reached out to some of you about the hourly, it's a great job for a young person, a high school person. You have to be at least 16, older is better. Could be a person that just wants a few hours a week. The pay is a little bit above minimum, but not much, but it's a great job. And we would love it if we could help some Albion students or Albion residents, Albion young kids in high school here. We'd be happy to be their first job. Do that. We'll train them. We'll make them lifeguards. That's a skill they can take wherever they go. Shortage of lifeguards too. But we're no different than anywhere else. And our programming is limited to getting staffing. So however we can help and finding the right channel to talk with. I've spoken with Mr. Bonner and several of you in here, Nora and Seth and Shane. We know everybody's not on the same communication channel with Facebook. Do we need an office hours session here? You're reaching out via email, texting services. What can we do to best connect with folks here? And really we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want to deliver great wellness programming. And we think judging by the families that signed up for swimming, families are ready for that. Help us do that by helping us find some staffing for that if you could. I know you're all faced with the same thing too. You probably bus drivers, y'all, everything else. But if you could help us do that, please. We are happy to be a young person's great first job.
Councilman Mooney.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Have you connected with the Albion Economic Development Corporation? They often post job openings.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you for that suggestion as well. Yes. Do you think some other things that we could do, such as office hours? I don't know, it could be one of the places down here once a week. Where can we best connect with folks?
So office hours meaning not in the traditional sense of what we think of office hours being. Perhaps it's us setting up at the Bohm or the Foundry or going at Big B. I'm not quite sure. Somewhere that's Espresso yourself is what we're doing at Washington and Gardner in 2 weeks. Espresso yourself is welcome to anybody. It's just going to be coffee and tea, and it's going to be bagels and some pastries. And we just want to hear from our community. Out of the 2,000 participants that we've had 400 that are unique. That's pretty outstanding for a 6-month period. So we're welcoming anybody that's taking classes and anybody else, our neighbors, our fellow community members. Not anybody that's just come to these. We've had plenty of our members of the YMCA because they're residents over here in Albion or Marshall, or maybe they travel past it. They have been frequently visiting our classes. So espresso yourself is one of the ways that we're trying to just go above and beyond. You don't have to do any stretches. You can just sit in a chair, enjoy a cup of coffee that's nice and warm, and just talk about what makes you here. Give us feedback. What can we do to constantly create a community that is transparent, and what makes your day tick? It could be a 15-minute stretch session that you were looking for us. Maybe it's a water challenge, or maybe it's getting kids to run around the block at a certain time. Whatever it is, there's no task that's too small for us to jot down and see what we could do to really make an impact for wellness. Because wellness to me is different than it is to you. So making sure that it's custom created is exactly why we're here.
And making the connection also with the existing program. You have some great existing programming, making that connection that comes together under the same umbrella. Still learning the best way to do that and make that the most efficient way. And then also looking at some future plans. Maybe express those yourself, we noticed, but Caitlin mentioned the open swim night. Now that we're able to program at the Opportunity School and at the Gal somewhat, right? Flick and float. Come float in the pool and watch a movie with your kids one night a month.
Yeah.
Water aerobics, perhaps hopefully at the Opportunity School, family movie night, the mom, right? Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat, whatever is available right now, honestly, whatever we're doing this day.
So the wellness looks different to everyone, and we want to be reflective of what needs for the community. And we know the best way to do that is to build a strong relationship locally. So thank you for letting us be pragmatic in our approach to do that. And putting one foot in front of the other. And we'll stumble sometimes, but hopefully we'll pick ourselves up and go forward the rest.
Do we have any other? Yes, Mayor Pro Jackson.
Yeah, so what time is the
The espresso yourself?
Espresso yourself is going to be Saturday morning. It's on the October 23rd, and it's at 9 a.m. And we're going to leave it open-ended. So however the day progresses. So if it goes 25 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever our audience in front of us is going to unfold, we're going to just let it naturally unfold from there.
So it's coffee, espresso, and donuts.
And yes, and
So there has to be wellness, if there's going to be pastries, there has to be some sort of wellness.
And so what is the time that the youth can come down, because they can go to school to be interviewed or to fill out apps or whatever for the lifeguard?
Oh, the 23rd is on Saturday.
Yes, it's on
So
Saturday.
you're doing all this on that Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
But we also want to hear from the rest of, not only the councilmen, but also our community to figure out where and what would be a good space for us to have office hours. Again, not the traditional brick and mortar that we're in right now, but what would be where we would find our youth or older active adult that are seeking to have extra hours. Our schedule is online, yes, ma'am.
And as far as the contact, just follow up with Councilman Jackson, we can take any applications now, right? They can email Caitlin directly, and we can get their application, be happy to talk to them. We know that we'll be more successful with our swimming programs here if our lifeguards come from here and our swim instructors come from here. We're limited with a ratio of number of students. I have to have a lifeguard, I have to have a swim instructor. It's a small ratio of instructor to student, but I think it's a better experience for students when they do that. And by judging by their family's responses here, those 39 kids in this, and on the waiting list now too, we're ready to put in more.
So you said that Thursday night at what time? For the swim lessons? Yes, start at 5:30. 5:30? And then, so you have that first session starting this Thursday, and that'll go until when? So the first session is 4-week block, so you're looking at October 7th to the 28th, and it's gonna be those 4 Thursdays. And then hopefully by how we get parent feedback and survey, and then how we collect even more information from the wait list, we're hoping to do 2 times a week based on instructors that we get as well. Really increase that mobility for swim lessons. And that is going to be hosted at the Opportunity School.
Takes a little time to train lifeguards too, and they have to pass a CPR class and other life-saving type things that they'll do. But it's a great life skill, and they can go wherever and usually find a job. They're going to school, they can be a lifeguard. And just even having the CPR and first aid training is valuable as well.
Yes. And just a reminder that all of these programs are free to Albion residents. If you live outside of the city district, you just have to pay a small fee. So you are welcome to participate. If you live inside the city limits of Albion, they are free to all of our residents. Thank you.
So the swim lessons also be just $5 if you're outside of the city limits? No, they are not $5. They're almost $50. Yes, we're making those price adjustments as we see our client, as our audience though. So those will fluctuate based on the next questions. Yeah. Yep.
We hope the families do take advantage, and residents take advantage of the open swim night. We can float when those get in, those will be getting scheduled, will be posted as well.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you, ladies, so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank
See
you.
y'all there.
And then next we have Amanda Campbell.
Oh, she'll be with me, but she's there.
Okay. Oh, that's sure she was presenting. Yours.
Thanks. So tonight Shane and I are here to talk a little bit about the huge gift announcement that we had, the blueprint for a better Albion, the gift that Tony and Krista DeNicola gave in honor of their parents. It's the largest gift that the foundation has received in the history of the foundation.
So I can explain a little bit about the gift. Tony and Krista DeNicola have committed $2 million in total to the community over the next year. The gift is directly to the foundation. So this is a gift directly to the Albion Community Foundation that is going to be administered by the foundation and then brought forward to the city as we start to work through Tony and Christy's family's priorities. The gift comes in 2 waves. The first $1 million has been given in 2021. And that is going to be used to jumpstart the list of projects. That way things can start happening sooner rather than later. Similar to ARPA funding, our donors wanted things to happen now and not later. The second $1 million will come in as a 50-cent match on every dollar up to $2 million. So what that means is this is approximately $4 million of investment. So the Community Foundation has committed to matching the Nicola family's $2 million with an additional $2 million. And we are already 25% of the way there just in the very short time that we've had this gift. Go to the next slide. The next slide is a list of projects. These are projects that the Community Foundation's committee worked on with Tony and Christy DeNicola and family to create new spaces or improve or revitalize spaces. One of the things that the Community Foundation is we have precinct 1 as a priority community since it has received such little investment over the last 50 years. In fact, it's seen a lot of divestment. And we moved our offices to that precinct just a few short years ago. We executed a 5-year strategic plan saying we would like to help revitalize and help homeowners see the value in their homes go up and their community pride increase. And so these projects were guided by not only that strategic plan, the recreation plan that we had in place over the last 5 years. There's a new one that's being worked on, but we took from the old. And then also looking at the NAACP recreation survey. And we took these findings to the Nicola family and these 13 projects, starting with a splash pad at McIntosh Park, a playground at McIntosh Park, a restroom structure and shelter at McIntosh Park. And then, of course, in order to make sure we take care of it, landscaping, lighting, security, and other amenities at McIntosh Park. Followed up, the ice arena at Victory Park will be, the roof is obviously falling apart. And we would like to replace that roof so it can last us another 50 to 100 years. In addition to parks and recreation upgrades, the Nicola family were intrigued by Innovate Albion STEM Lab and making that accessible to our entire community. So the old Masonic Temple here downtown is a 3-floor STEM lab, and the Nicolas were very excited about making STEM accessible to all. The Bohm Theater, coming out of COVID, needing some upgrades to continue to provide live entertainment as movies and other digital entertainment are not really going to support the theater's overall operations. And then we move back into Ketchum Field, scoreboard seating, basically a complete redo of Ketchum Field so that our young people can play t-ball, softball, baseball, on a wonderful field. Basketball courts and tennis upgrades all over the city, including Holland Park and Victory Park. So the Tillman Cornelius courts at Holland Park, as well as the tennis courts at Victory Park and other parks as needed. There's a little wiggle room in there as we get through these projects to even make many more things happen. Victory Park bathroom repairs and upgrades at the band shell. This will help improve the band shell. As you know, we have several activities that happen out there, weddings have been happening out there. And of course, Victory Park is the crossing of 3 different trailways through Albion. And so this provides an opportunity to give bikers, walkers, hikers the ability to get warm water, have clean restroom facilities. And then finally, 2 additional projects, city park and recreation sign upgrades. So this is going to help us make wayfinding and signage on the city uniform, hopefully adhering to the new city branding standards that the Chamber of Commerce helped us develop just a few years ago. And then completely revitalizing the train station here in downtown Albion. So as you can see, those are 13 projects. And Councilmember Jackson requested this presentation, and I really appreciate that because she wanted to make sure that we got out there how this all works, because there's some question about how does philanthropy work? How did we get a gift here? What does that look like? And so one of the things I want to share with you is that the foundation, we work with a number of donors to make their vision of things happen in whatever part of the community they would like. So the Nicola said, I really want to focus on children, families, and recreation. And so we looked at all the different resources we had, and over a series of 10 months, we were able to come up with these projects that rose to the top of their intention and what the foundation knew was a need and a priority of the community. And so as we received this gift, the first step was receiving the gift. The next is sharing with the community and engaging the community on themes and wants and needs. And so one of the things we're actually really excited about is now that we know what we're dealing with, we can go talk to the kids at the local schools or in the parks and say, what do you want in your splash pad or new playground? And really get their vision and try to incorporate that in the designer's renderings onto this timeline. The next is, there's an oversight committee that I'll talk about on the next slide. But the Nicola family and the foundation have put together a committee that's going to help make sure we see all of these projects through the end and are kind of like the check and balance to make sure that the donor's intent is carried out, as well as their money is spent most responsibly. The next step is that we take the projects to the Parks and Recreation Commission. I took this, not this presentation, but a similar presentation earlier this week to Parks and Recreation to talk about, here's the gift, here's how we got it. This is supposed to be a project that is should be seen as collaborative and as something to be friendly with all developments happening, downtown development, college development, et cetera. And then finally, the project will have to be brought to council, because anytime you do construction or upgrades in the park, just like with Victory Park, with Holland Park, everything has to come through council for final approval. By the time it comes to you, the money will be in the bank, as a lot of it already is. The design will already be done. We will work with city administration to make sure it meets all the guidelines for each part of the community, and then we'll bring it to you all in hopes of a really exciting vote to make these things happen. And these will happen rather quickly in a timeline that we actually we think is very ambitious. Tony and Christy were clear. 12 months, guys, get this done in 12 months. So the oversight committee and partners. So the committee is comprised of 5 members. Mike Seckwit, Mark Garrison, Gwen Tabb, Karen Nickel-Hoagland, and Larry Williams. I think we have a couple of committee members here that I'd like to recognize. Gwen Tabb is here, and Mark Garrison is here as well tonight. These are the folks that are going to make sure that the foundation does its job and make sure that this historic gift is stewarded appropriately. And then I put a little note up there. The Albion Community Foundation has been working with its community partners such as the NAACP, Community Leadership Collaborative, Kids at Hope, and many more. The donor drew on many of these ideas from recent community conversations and surveys about how to best invest in Albion, because a lot of philanthropy is about investing in ourselves and investing in our community. And I think the Parks and Recreation Survey said that, revitalize what we have. And then finally, I have 2 slides. One that shows a kind of atypical rendering of a splash pad, which is quite exciting for little kids and older kids. And then the next piece is a playground that is full from tots to adults with some exercise equipment as well. If you've had a chance to go out to Macintosh Park, I was out there just this last week. It's a lot to take in, and to realize that there's nothing there, and to realize that there are so many of our community's kids in that area living very closely in that part of town. And we need to make sure that they have access to these wonderful resources, and that their families get to take pride in and ownership of something so wonderful. And so with that, that was the historic announcement we made at the festival. Did you want to make any other?
No, I think that there is so much, I look at that and I get so excited every time I see it. To have a new splash pad and a playground and to revitalize some parks that need a lot of love and some attention. I'm excited about what we can do together with the money that Tony and Christy have so graciously given.
Do we have questions from council members? No? Well, thank you for that presentation. It was really great, and thank you, Mandy, for being here to help present. So at this time, we will open it up to public comment. Anybody in the gallery that would like to speak for 3 minutes, it has to be specific to what is currently on the agenda. So if we have anybody that would like to get up and speak, you have 3 minutes. So just please announce your name and your address, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Mike Manu, 912 West Ferry. And you know what? That was a really beautiful presentation, Shane. The only thing that I saw that was wrong with it is there's got to be a clear-cut conflict of interest. You know, how can a member of the council get up and talk about this? It's a beautiful program. It's nice. It's great that Tony DeNicola is investing in the community that made him what he is today. Okay, and that's awesome.
Point of order, comments have to be directed to the mayor and the council at large.
Okay, all right. Well, I would just like to have the council and the city attorney review whether or not this is a conflict of interest. And I would like to ask that that be something that be taken up because, you know, I mean, it's a beautiful program and everything, but perhaps someone should resign because they should not be making a presentation like that in a forum like this. Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Craig, and I think the presentation was wonderful. I believe, I know Tony personally, him and Christy, I grew up with them. I don't think there was nothing wrong with Shane getting up, because he's dealt with with Tony and Christy, and even if I had gotten up, it probably would be a problem if I gave this presentation, but for somebody from Albion that has gone and made a living for themselves like the DeNicholas and to donate back to the city, what more can we, so, I mean, that is it's beautiful what they have done for this community. Maybe it's a problem because it's not somewhere else, because they picked McIntosh and all of the parks to be restored, but I just think it was beautiful. What you did was great, the presentation was beautiful, and I think I just believe it'll be great for the kids, all of our children, especially on that side of town. The entire community should be appreciative that somebody was gracious enough to even donate $1, let alone 2 million to Albion. Thank you.
Hi. Say your name and address.
Morris Arboy, 417 Elizabeth Street here in Albion. Everything that you just said was great. Thank you so much for putting it that way. I can think of a lot of people who should resign over a lot more things than giving a presentation about a partner being involved in one of the largest donations that's going to benefit the city of Albion, and I think the largest to the foundation. Is that right? So that's incredible. As a former trustee of the foundation and a resident, that's just great. Love it. So, and I've never met Tony. I don't know them, but I'm grateful for that, for the kids and people of Albion. So thank you. I do want to get on the record that there is something missing from the presentation about the website having to do with the bond. There is nothing there about who paid for the telephone survey that was made to the citizens of Albion on behalf, I think, of the district marshal, which includes Albion, of course. Who paid for that survey? Why? How that firm was identified, and the deep ties that the college president has to the firm that surveyed. The citizens of Albion, without the citizens of Albion even knowing that there was a survey coming, which is a flaw to begin with, because so many people hung up on the survey and actually didn't take it, because when they were asked, when they asked who the people were who were calling and asking all these questions, the questioners either hung up on them or refused to answer those questions, etc. So I just want to get that on the record, that if the college actually, as I think the board or the superintendent of public schools paid for that and arranged for that to happen, I wish the college would come forward and give the reasons why they did that and talk about the financial arrangements, perhaps share the contract, because this is so important. And I think that's all I have. Got 45 more seconds, though.
The Obermeyers are back. So,
State your name and address.
Victoria Obermeyer.
Jason Obermeyer, 903 Cram Lane, Albion, Michigan.
So we know that there was a huge gift given to Albion.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great work.
When we first moved here over a year ago, McIntosh Park was very interesting to us. So we explored McIntosh Park. And we know there are some board members present here that are on that committee to decide where the money goes to McIntosh Park. A year ago, we reached out to Michigan State University regarding McIntosh Park and putting in a 3-hole golf course, 3-hole golf, just for the kids to learn, because right now we are doing golf at Burrow Golf Course. So we would like to put our hands on the table to see if it's something that would be a viable option. My husband works, that's his job. His degree is in turf microbial sciences. He makes things grow. He manages a golf course. And we have an urban roots initiative under the Welcome Home organization, and we would love to donate some of our time for that. We also, and resources, we also have a consulting company that is willing to donate their time to test the soil for a very minimal price for us. So we would like to vie along with a splash pad, if we could possibly consider a 3-hole golf course for the kids. Second, we would like to vie for the bowling alley to kind of get some money. We know that they are LLC, they are their own business, but I'm gonna tell you, they give us such, you would not believe how they help us to get these kids into the bowling alley for like no charge. And we feed them lunch, and they charge us almost nothing to get these kids in bowling. And the bowling alley has been here forever, and it should be a pillar of this community. And I think that we have to, promote businesses to stay here too, and to stay in business. So we would ask that, perhaps we can sit and meet with the bowling alley as well, to perhaps give them some funds for repairing of their roof and just some of the things that are inside the bowling alley too. So, we have upward of 50 kids every Saturday, and we run programs all year long there. So we're just asking. You got 30 seconds, sorry.
Like the previous couple that was up here from Marshall, we do make a very good team. However, she talks a lot more than I do, which is okay. It was supposed to be more of a joke than anything. But, anyhow, to what Ms. Obermeyer has said, the bowling alley is an athletic building. Bowling is a sport. You can get college scholarships for it. And Michigan State and Mavis Consulting are on board to do whatever we can at McIntosh Park.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to stand and speak on an agenda item?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Dave Atchison, 108 West Erie Street. Make this quick because I want to talk about 3 things. Start off on a high note. My compliments to you, Mayor, Councilman Williamson. I compliment both of you for working with the people that donated the money, especially thank them. I think this is fantastic. Can't see where there's any kind of conflict of interest in making a presentation. So I appreciate it very much, and thank you very much for what you're doing for the city. And in fact, you're able to do that. Second is the presentation update on the YMCA. I had really hoped that they would have explained what the recent decision by the board of directors were to not continue with the relationship with the college, I think it was, but it was in the paper and I didn't know what that was. The other was the questions that council asked as far as the bond. I'll offer up that the big issue that I'm aware of is the location. And I think it is a major misstep by the school board not to have anticipated that people want to know where you're going to put a school if you want us to spend $45 million on it or hand that over. So that is the big issue. And then the second issue, and it ties together, is public trust is eroding because we get conflicting information. Perhaps this debunking and the website will address some of that. And then the last, the topic of conflict of interest and the appearance of impropriety. That's a big issue too. And people are not going to be anxious to vote and raise their taxes if they think there's something out of whack with the process in getting there. And when we have a president of our school board is getting paid by Albion College to help make this all come about, it doesn't look right. And I'd say that's more of an issue of ethics. And hopefully the board president will go look at the ethics by the Department of Education here in Michigan for board members. And one of the tenets is to avoid the appearance of impropriety. So standing behind the legal, whether it is legal or isn't legal, that's not necessarily ethical. And that is very important to protect the public trust. So those are 3 of the issues, and there are others within this community that I'm hearing. But if you want to know what the big issues are, I think that covers a lot. An excellent question on the environmental samples. Sounds like maybe they got somebody that can do some environmental samples at a reduced rate or something. But we know all over the city, there's contaminated sites. Union Steel, Dog Park, which is right around Washington Gardner. You know, so it's not prudent to proceed down that path if you don't know what the potential issues are. So, thank you.
Anybody else like to stand and address? All right, let's move on. So within our packet, we have the minutes from our September 20th council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So support.
Any comments, corrections, anything along those lines? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. And next we have the appointment of 2 city council representatives to sit on the comprehensive plan steering committee. Do we have you? Oh, I'm sorry, motion to approve the appointment of 2 city council.
Support.
Good evening. So we are moving forward with the planning commission updating the city's comprehensive plan. As mentioned before, Beckett and Rader is the consultant firm that we hired for that. We got a whole bunch of money in state assistance for that, so we're not paying for a quarter of that out of pocket. That's because of our redevelopment ready community status, which is one of the goals, one of the things we're trying to maintain by updating our comprehensive plan and keeping that current. So we're putting together a steering committee to work with City Manager Snyder and I on the nitty gritty. Here's the changes Beckett and Rader made. What do we think of that? Here's the information we're going to gather. What do you think of that? Do you want any changes? All of those questions. So we're doing that with members of the planning commission and members of the city council. And so I'm here to ask that you appoint 2 amongst yourself, in addition to the mayor who's already serving on that. To serve on that steering committee, we'll be meeting at the hour prior to planning commission meetings from now until February. So October's is the 12th. So if you're appointed tonight, October 12th, 6 p.m. Right here is where I want to see it. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer those. Any information I can provide, more than happy to do so. At this first meeting, will be biggest thing will be going over the survey that Beckett and Rader is going to put out to our residents, the ways they're going to put it out, the content of that survey. So as a heads up for the first round here.
So I believe we did have 2 folks that have expressed interest in serving on this committee, Councilwoman Lemieux and Councilwoman Reed. Am I correct in that? Councilwoman Lemieux?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I guess we just need to make a motion to approve of them having the seats on the steering committee.
So moved.
Support. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lynn,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was easy. Next is we have a motion to approve the Engine 1 fire pump repair.
So
Second.
Yep.
So our mechanic came to me earlier this month and said that we had a major problem with our pump. It needs to be rebuilt. And so this is on our main engine. Main reason I want to talk to you about this tonight is that this engine is now 20 years old. Our backup engine is 32 years old. When we bought this truck back in 2001, 2002, it replaced a truck that was 27 years old at the time. And so we're at a rotation point where we've got to really consider about making this truck a backup truck and taking our backup truck and selling it to get a new truck. The last conversation I had with the dealers about the trucks, we're probably looking at about $750,000 for a new fire truck now. It's just going price. The one issue we have with our backup truck right now is that it's not NFPA compliant because it doesn't have a closed cab. It has an open cab on the back. So we can't have anybody riding in the cab, but only 2 people in the front of the cab that can ride in it. So if this truck, as it goes down, we don't have the truck to really replace it as a backup at the time because we can't get 3 or 4 people in it like we do our current truck. Now, we do have the tower, which has the capabilities of doing everything else that the engines do as well, but if we put it into a position where it's the engine, it can't do the other things that it does for us, which is the tower part of it. So I'm not saying that we don't have the equipment to do what we need to do right now while we get this repair done, but we have to consider soon looking at this. We have put in for grant money for the last 3 years now through NFPA, which is sorry about that, Assistant to Firefighter Grant, AFG grants through FEMA, which is the same grant that we got the tower on back in 2012. But we've been turned down each year for that grant. There's nothing guaranteeing that we're going to get that grant. And so I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention that over the next few years, we may have to consider the purchase of a fire truck, which is going to be rather expensive. Yeah, absolutely. But this repair will do a lot of good because it's a major repair on the pump and get the pump back into the functioning the way it should be functioning. The mechanic said the backup pumper is running fine. There's no issues with it, but as these trucks get older, just like your car, all you gotta do is go start it one day and it doesn't start, you can't get it out the door. So
how old is this truck again that we're putting money into?
we purchased it, I think it was delivered in 2002, so it's almost 20 years old. And the other truck was delivered in 1989, so it's 32 years old. So. And it does, like I said, it doesn't meet any of the current standards for a fire truck. It doesn't have the space to carry the equipment that we're required to have. It doesn't have the closed cab in it, so and it still functions quite well for what we do with it, but it's getting there. And then our brush truck on top of that, which is not as quite essential, but that's a 1989 as well, so that's 32 years old as well.
So if you do get the grant, you will buy a new truck.
Yes,
Okay.
and if we get the grant,
Yeah.
if we get the grant, we only have to pay 5% of it. With the tower, we paid 5%, which was $50,000. So it would be less than that. That was $1 million truck. So
Then you have 2002 kind of today and a brand new.
yeah, okay, yeah. And so the hope is, and we'll continue to put in for the grant every year. And the hope is that we get the opportunity to get it. But it's FEMA money, so that pot keeps getting smaller and smaller. So
Councilman Reed, yes, question?
So what do you do with the truck that you've got to leave with the new
one? The old one that's 32 years old, we'd sell that, but they don't get very much money for those at that point. Usually what happens are dealers that'll buy those and they'll end up shipping them overseas to some other country that will still use it. But I think the last truck that we sold in 2002 was a 1975 and we got maybe $4,000 for it. So.
Does it have one of those things that you can, that you can get up on high things with?
No.
No.
Any other questions for Chief Kip? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemieux,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Reed. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. We have a motion to approve for the MML coaching, consulting, and facilitation.
So moved.
Support. Manager Snyder, do you want to give some more information on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So after I think the resolution 2021-30 was approved, I reached out to MML to inquire about a consulting quote for myself as well as city council. So before you have a proposal that was provided by the MML. This will provide a work session with myself, council, but then as well as our department heads and city leaders. So we will all come together because we are essentially a team and we should be working together as a team. So I'm very excited to bring this individual on board to assist us in moving forward in the right direction. The first work session is estimated to not exceed $3,000 for a full day. So we're looking from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Depending on everyone's schedule, whether it be during the week or a weekend session, that will be our kickoff session. So I'm just bringing this before you to make sure that it meets all of your expectations or what you were intending on when you passed that resolution, and just looking for approval so we can get the work session scheduled.
Do you have any questions for City Manager Snyder? Yes, Councilwoman Lanu.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I sent these questions earlier last week, I think, right when we got this proposal, but I just wanted to make sure because we have a vacancy, confirming that we would be waiting to have the full council before making this investment. And then also, I know scheduling has been challenging. It was challenging for me when I was trying to bring us together. So I just wanted to acknowledge whatever we can do to support the facilitation and making sure as many people as possible can be there. I definitely want to support that.
Would it be an issue if we waited until after that?
It's honestly, it's whatever council, whatever you wish, I will relay back to the MML coach. This is the proposal that they provided for you, so whatever you wish to do with it, just let me know and I will relay that back to MML. I know for the first session, we can do it during the week or we can do it during the weekend, because I know elected officials, you obviously have jobs outside of your role as council members. So they are flexible and willing to work with us, but yes, I want to echo Councilmember Lanu. We have to participate. If we are going to invest in this service, then we all have to be open and willing to participate and really utilize this expertise that we are paying for.
One follow-up question I had, because it seems like there were two separate things. There's the leadership team and all of us being able to work through the questions they provided, but then there's also the coaching. And I don't know if that's, I'm assuming that's probably focused on the city manager, or maybe the entire city administration. I don't know what they're willing to do or what would work best, but with the new folks that we've had coming to lead our different departments, I just want to make sure that we're not waiting for our council to be built to pursue that aspect of what the council had indicated was a priority.
I've already met and talked with the consultant, and we've already kind of had conversations on coaching for myself. So you will be providing the coaching council sessions as well. So again, council, if you wish to wait till until we fill the vacant council seat, that is at the will of the council. I'm just looking for direction at this point.
So, I mean, I'm good with waiting until we get that new person in.
Yeah.
So as long as everybody else is in agreement, I'm good with that. But then, definitely you can start your aspect of the coaching regardless of the weekend. So are we good with that?
Yep, I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Reed. Yes. Jackson. Yes. Lanu.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay. Next, we have a discussion and approval of the resolution 2021-33. It's an amendment to 2019-11 to declare the annual recognition of Indigenous People Day. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Second.
Councilman Reed, do you want to speak on this?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. This is a small amendment and then some additional information just for additional context. I know when this was passed, it didn't have a unanimous approval. And so I was grateful to receive additional information about the importance of both the city declaring this and Indigenous people's contributions to our community specifically. So that's included as additional supplemental information on the second page. With regard to the amendment itself, we've simply just added Potawatomi, the Potawatomi people, and two different abbreviated terminology were added. I can't say this right now, but there's two added. Ottawa was one, and then the Bodawatomi were the two added things. So that is the only thing that has changed on this resolution.
Any questions for Councilwoman Lanu on this? Yep. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson.
yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, next we have a discussion on our city manager's 6-month evaluation. City Manager Snyder, do you want to speak on this, or do you just kind of want to review this information?
I don't have any comments at this time. I guess I will open it up to council and I can respond as we move forward.
So we have, the first page is our rating systems based on all responses. The next several pages are the actual responses from each council member. So do we have any questions or comments from council on this? Councilwoman Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I first of all just want to start by acknowledging City Manager Snyder and thanking her for not only her service into this role and taking on this work for our community, which feels like mission impossible from everything that I've witnessed, but specifically holding this in public. From my understanding, that's not how it's traditionally happened, but for the sake of transparency and building trust, I just wanted to thank City Manager Snyder for her courage in that, and City Clerk Domingo for also providing the city manager's self-evaluation, which was included. I've never had to manage somebody and conduct an evaluation before I really received them myself, so this was a very challenging experience for me, particularly with all of the challenges that our city is facing. And so I just wanted to acknowledge some of the highlights that I've seen our manager take on. For me, in Precinct 5, the donation bins, I remember coming in, I was like immediately like, what's going on? What do we do? Our city manager enacted a policy, and now those are no longer a problem in our precinct, and I wanted to thank you for that. In terms of the things that I've included in my evaluation, I'm more than happy to follow up in the private meetings that you've now started scheduling on the specific areas that I've raised. And I want to make sure that anything that I'm sharing today is with your consent right now as well. Thank you.
I don't really know what you're going to share, but it's an open discussion, so yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're working together. The biggest challenge that I faced in my precinct was the MDOT M99 proposal, and it to me is an example of concerns that I've had raised by residents related to I think the two biggest words I've heard the most, and this far precedes our city manager or anyone who works here, and is relative to the many challenges that we face. But the two biggest things I've heard were communication and professionalism. And so in this role, being responsible for evaluating and ensuring that our residents receive the services that they're due as taxpayers, that's just the biggest emphasis that I have to, continue to convey, particularly within our Department of Public Services. I'm learning more about how, we resolve complaints and work and move forward. And again, this was something I heard as I was campaigning last year, that the way that residents are treated when they have a concern and the issues that are raised, it seems like many things go unresolved. And so I really want to see how we can work together, whether it's getting in front of people with the information that they need to be equipped and, be empowered as a resident, with one-pager documents, or hosting more town halls. I think that the more opportunities that we as a city's administration have to work with our residents is going to be very, very important, particularly as we see our climate shifting and these like the major storm that we had. I just received feedback from a resident who said they were here 1 week after the storm and there were still down power lines and excessive brush. And so this is just a couple of examples of areas where I can see that there will need to be ongoing support, and I just want to make sure that we're providing that. I think another solution or thing that I've seen happen before is just having city staff and city council being able to come together, understanding our roles and the different things that the city staff are doing for our community. It's much easier for us to be able to answer residents' concerns if we have a greater understanding of what the staff are doing. So those are just a few of the things that I wanted to make sure that residents heard me say because they have brought them to me.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. The Department of Public Service, that is one of our department that has experienced I will say the director position has been a revolving door similar to our city manager position. Thankfully, I have been able to fill that position as of October 2020. Director Miller came on board as our full-time director of public services. In the meantime, we had a transition. We had two acting superintendents, one over our wastewater treatment plant and then one over our public services who oversee our streets, cemetery, and parks. Our wastewater treatment plant, he was moved into full-time, however, he is no longer with us, so that is a current vacancy that we are looking to fill. Our superintendent of public services, who of you all have met, we have finally been able to get that filled, Kevin O'Brien, so he is new into this role. So we have several new leaders over that department. That department has years of, I would say, chaos and dysfunction, and we are working to work through that and upgrade our policies, our procedures. Training is very crucial, so we are doing that as well. But making sure a lot of our key positions here at City Hall have been vacant for some time, and thankfully we have brought on a lot of staff members to fill those roles, and we're all new, so it is going to take time to learn our roles, learn our community, learn our ordinances, and I just ask that for a little empathy and understanding of what all of our new department heads, as well as myself, that we are experiencing each day. There's a lot that we have to deal with that have been let go of for many years, and it's going to take many years to get them back on track and back moving in the right direction. So I hear you, and I thank you for that feedback. And I just ask for everybody to give us a little bit of patience and understanding, and give us time to get things back in order, because there has been years of my entire time here at the city. I think it's just been in constant years of turmoil and just transition in multiple areas from top to bottom. And I think here at City Hall, we're still working through that, and on top of dealing with the health pandemic. Every day there are new challenges, new things that arise. So I just ask for a little understanding, and I will say, I don't feel that right now. I don't feel that from this council. And so I'm asking for that tonight. When looking at my review, I do feel that some areas were not evaluated properly, because there were comments that reflected things that happened before my time as permanent city manager, which I don't feel is fair. Things that were left in the comments I had no part of, or that was under a previous administration. So I will say this again, I'm happy that we are bringing coach on board. I look forward to working with that coach to better understand my role and council roles. Because right now there's not a clear understanding of what we're supposed to be doing.
Councilman Williamson.
So I was gonna say that I think the common thread for me when looking at all of the reviews from my colleagues was that there's either one side or the other. You either want to be a city manager as a council person, or you don't want anything to do with the city manager as council person. And I think we need to find where we fit in that spectrum, because as a council person, I have constantly had to educate the folks that I represent and people who I don't represent, but who are in the community, about what our role is. And my role isn't to direct public services. My role is not to direct the water department. My role isn't to clean out gutters on my street. My role is to create policy to move city administration forward and creating an environment where businesses, residents can flourish in this community. And I think when I see it, I think there's a lot of micromanaging individually on council happening. And I want to echo that when I read through these, there are some comments in here on things that are absolutely inaccurate, down to the sidewalk around Holland Park. That money was spent in the previous council to do the corners. That had nothing to do with the current city manager, yet we have graded her down in an area on her evaluation because of that particular situation. And there's multiples of those throughout. One of the things that I found disappointing is how low these scores were. And we don't have to compare year over year. We shouldn't have to compare from manager to manager. That isn't what we should be doing. And what I have to say is that after 2 failed city managers, we finally get someone in here doing more than just the basics of their job. And we now have barely passing a 3-point on their evaluation. We should be at 4 and 5 at this point. Yes, not every pet project can get done. There are a bunch of roads that I would like to see patched and fixed in 6 precincts. There's that tree that fell over in the river over by Linden Avenue that I would love to see picked out of the river. But if I ding the city manager on every single little thing that the city cannot accomplish because of the scarcity of resources that this community has, then how are we gonna retain talent, train talent, and then finally attract talent when they finally leave and go on to something better? So from my standpoint on council, I was disappointed in some of my fellow colleagues in grading so low and unfairly in this process. And while some may have said we should have done this behind closed doors, I think that it's important that we didn't. Because people need to see, you know, how you feel and how you're grading and how you're putting your judgment on the city manager and her performance. So with that, I want to say thank you to City Manager Snyder for continuing to fight the good fight and be our city manager and continue to interface with everybody in this community as best as she can, especially during the times that we're living in, which we don't see ending anytime soon with this craziness. But I also want to encourage my fellow colleagues to really step up to the plate and try to understand your role a little bit better, act with a little more kindness. I mean, we already had a meeting about a late report. Can we just do better so that we can get to a point where we can have these conversations? We passed a resolution recently that was given the city manager coach, but if you remember, we also said the city council needed the same type of coaching. And I want to make sure that we're doing that. Because then are we gonna finally get told to stay in our lanes? I need it just as much as anybody else. You know, sometimes I get carried away too, right? We all do. But someone, somewhere has to say, stay in your lane at some point, and you have to listen to them. And that's for both the manager, that's for the mayor, that's for everybody up here. I am just disappointed with how low these scores were. This is a bright star in our community. This is a homegrown talent to our community. And we're giving her a black eye already before she could even go out and be bigger in her career. This is everything that we say we want in Albion. Everything that I grew up hearing. I want talent locally grown, educated around here, comes back and gives back, shows up to every philanthropic event they possibly can and makes a difference. And what are we doing to that? This looks terrible. It is terrible. It doesn't just smell terrible, it's bad. So again, thank you for putting up with this mess. And hopefully it'll get better soon.
If I can just say, I'm well aware I'm new in my role. I'm open to constructive criticism. I welcome feedback because I can only, if there's an issue that's not brought to my attention, I can't change it or fix it. But I will make myself clear. I will not be bullied. Amen. And I will leave that at that. And I will not be disrespected. Amen.
Councilman This is the first time in my 12 years that I have had a city manager that wanted to have those done. Public evaluation is not to run down. It's to tell what needs help, what's being done on. And that is the way I see this is being done. I don't think that anything, and since you mentioned Highland Park, and everybody knows that I'm the one that usually works on Highland Park. When I talked about Highland Park, I was talking about the people in the senior center and the people in the home care center who are, some of them are physically handicapped, some are physically and mentally handicapped, had asked that while we were doing Highland Park, we do the sidewalk going around it so that they could get out and walk for exercise. They don't like walking down that back path because it's trees and things, they don't know what's back there. And so I asked when we found out we couldn't use the money for sidewalks, I asked that money be used, part of it, why are you shaking your head? You always do that. You always.
Councilman, let's just get to the point, please.
And give each other signals as to what to do.
Councilman,
Stop it.
Councilman.
And so,
Let's just get to your point, please.
you watch it too, you see it.
I'm sorry,
So
ma'am.
I had said that I would like to use some of that money to fix the sidewalks around the park so that these people could have the opportunity to get out and get exercise. And that's what I put in here, that, you know, that I had asked for that, it was denied, it was, so we're fixing the handicap section. Some of them needed fixing, some of them didn't need fixing, but they got fixed anyway. And so these people still, I was out there a couple of weeks ago when we were getting ready for, Mr. Bonner's thing. And they were out there and they kept saying, are you gonna be able to fix these walks so we can walk? And I told them they would have to take that up with, the city manager or wait until I could raise some money to do it. So that's just it. But I don't think that anyone has the right to, I have the right to do an evaluation. Every person on this council has a right to do an evaluation the way they see, and they don't need anyone else telling them what they should put down, what they shouldn't put down. They should evaluate the way they see. And that's just the way I feel about it.
And you have that right, but also Councilman Williamson was able to bring that up since you had put it on your evaluation. That was the purpose of bringing that up in comment.
Well, I just explained what it was about.
And I can understand that, but you coming at him and you coming at me, that does
No,
not,
I was
no, hold on. Councilman
looking at the guy.
You can be here as long as you want to. I am talking. I don't anybody when they're talking, and I expect you to show the same type of order.
Department, is there any yelling allowed in council? Because as far as I'm aware, there's no yelling tolerated during the chamber meetings. Thank you.
I would not yell if I don't get yelled at. Simple and straight.
Don't yell at me.
I was not yelling at you. I yelled at you because you yelled at me. So please have some courtesy of the council
I
chamber.
feel the same way.
Thank you. Councilman Williamson.
I just wanted to provide some clarification about this idea that the city manager evaluation has to be done either in closed session or open session. And the rules of order are actually very simple. It is up to the city manager's discretion whether they'd like to hold their evaluation in open or closed session. In fact, when Cheryl Mitchell, former city manager Cheryl Mitchell was here, there were at least 2, if not 3 times that she had opted to have her evaluation or feedback given to her in public. So this is strictly at the discretion of the person being evaluated for the public record at their choice. All evaluations eventually are foilable and made public even after a closed session discussion. So I just wanted to clarify that. So, and it has happened several times. City manager McCleary also requested that his evaluation be done in public as well. So we have a pretty set precedent for doing these types of evaluations in public. And it's a way for not only the city council to hold the manager accountable, it's also a way for the public and our residents to hold us accountable as city council people.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Before council members can speak twice, I wanted to make sure Mayor Pro Tem Jackson had a chance to speak, but I do have more to share as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, you had your hand up, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
That's all right. Just a question of the manager on the number 1 leadership. I couldn't answer that. The problem was the part of the background of the program efforts.
The program efforts.
What program efforts?
I'm sorry.
We'll have to be evaluating on the program efforts.
That's just any programs that council puts in place, just how I have been managing and overseeing those programs that you will initiate.
Then it's one more. And that would be curious. And that right there would be, I know after the fact, I just thought about that, when you did tell me that no, I couldn't send anything out. Make sure he wasn't trying to tell people how to go.
Yeah, and this just refers to just what's outlining what my roles are for the city charter, just making sure that I fall within those.
But those are the two questions that I have. Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I wanted to also say thank you, City Manager Snyder, for the insight that you provided in terms of my feedback, because to me, the purpose of this specific process and us all being here together is that we have insight and understanding so that we can convey that. So I just want to thank you again. Also, I mean, it's not just for me, it's for everybody listening, because that answers questions that we don't have to then answer. And I also just want to be really clear, because I think there's some political theater in terms of how bad this is. The city manager's evaluation, self-evaluation, was more than 2/3 out of 3, and the average amongst council was 3.25. So I just want to be clear about the actual facts of what was graded and how it was graded, so everyone can see it for themselves, but it's also on the record. I also want to go on record saying that what we just witnessed is unfortunate, but also representative of some of the frankly hostility that I also heard city manager say that you don't feel supported, and that it is very hard amongst all of us to work together. And when I come to you in your role as a city manager regarding our experiences, I was told that it is the mayor's responsibility to ensure the equanimity amongst council. It's not the manager's responsibility to ensure that all of us are on the same page and that the concerns that we're getting from residents are being answered, because as Councilmember Williamson said, there's lanes, there's procedures, there's processes. That's not you. You're not the repository of concerns. You have enough to deal with. And I, again, acknowledge your courage taking on this role, because it seems like there's this myth that you have an endless capacity. And I genuinely know how much you have invested in this role. And I just want to be clear that if we're going to rebuild trust, then we all have to really be accountable for our roles and our duties. And Mayor Snyder, I'm calling on you for help, as I have privately as well. The things that I'm seeing happen, we heard conflict of interest mentioned multiple times tonight. Whatever needs to be aired, the concerns that are here, I ask that we all just do our part in that. And I guess I yield. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And as I stated in the last council meeting, I'm gonna make efforts on our off weeks to meet in small groups. We can't meet with more than 4 or 3 voting members, so we have to keep it to groups of 3. We had an appointment scheduled for this Thursday. I had one who canceled, who you could have shown up, and I called and asked you to call me back if you wanted to talk. I didn't hear. So, you know, as Haley said, we are learning and we're trying to improve. But when I make the outreach to meet so that we don't have issues, so that make sure we're on the same page before we get to council meetings, I'm hoping to get, you know, an appropriate feedback for when we do schedule meetings. And with Haley, since she's not a voting member, she can have 3 of you together. With me, it's a different story. So I made that attempt and it didn't work out. Any other questions or comments? No? All right. Let's go on to future agenda items. Councilwoman Lanier?
Thank you. I would like an amendment for resolution number 2021-30. And I'll work with Attorney Harkness to draft that for our next meeting's packet.
Yep, I mentioned this at our last council meeting, just to remind everyone, YMCA Associates, we will be bringing forward the information on a potential new local street village, so just throwing that out there. If you're interested, please come out to hear what those new options are.
No other future agenda items? All right. At this time, we open it up to public comment. So if anybody would like to, yeah, stand, state your name and address, and we have 3 minutes.
Snyder, 201 Ford Road, Albion, Michigan. I just want to say, and this has nothing to do with my relationship with Haley personally. I'm looking at Haley as a professional, the city manager, the person that has been put in place to do this job that we also badly need to have done. And I listened to her say that she does not feel supported, and I can see absolutely looking around this room, this whole little box here, why she does not feel supported. I think not only do we need to look at coaching in terms of helping train the city manager, I think we strongly need to look at coaching in terms of to training the council. There's a lot of issues here that need to be addressed. There is an extreme lack of professionalism. And I do believe, you know, she may have a few people supporting her, but I think the majority really needs to step up and get some training and really remember what you're here for. Especially those of us who have been on the council for a period of time, I think we know how to conduct ourselves a little better than that. And I think we all need to know what we're here for. We all need to remember what we're here for. And we all need to remember that she's trying to do a job. As she said, give her a little bit of empathy, a little bit of time. Let her know that she's being supported as she learns this role. I think some of you would also know that you haven't been on the council that long. I think we all know that it takes time to learn anything. And when you have a person who's trying to do the job and you're putting roadblocks in her way everywhere she turns, I don't know how you expect her to be successful. So I think we all need to remember, we're people. We are people. Haley is somebody's child. Haley is a person. Just like you want to be respected, Councilwoman Reed, all of you want to be respected. I think we need to remember that Haley needs to be respected as well.
So folks, we gotta remember no pointed comments to council members. Anybody else like to stand?
Forrest Arboy, Albion, but 417 Elizabeth Street. Well, it's good that you guys are gonna get training and coaching. That's clear. So I hope you all do it, because some people out here, including me, I could probably use it as well. So I'm happy about that. I just have one question at first. Who voted against Indigenous Peoples Day? I mean, we stole their land. Okay, I'm glad that passed. Haley asked for, City Manager Snyder, again, who I met right after that last meeting that I was here, and haven't talked to since at all, or communicated with, called for tolerance and empathy. I think that would be great. That would be really nice. It's just a nice thing to have. Especially when you're dealing with people who are fresh to their jobs, new to their roles, somebody as young. I think that we might have 3 people who are about the same age. I don't know how old any of you are sitting on this side of the room, but that would be great to have some tolerance and empathy for people who are just feeling their way in. First term person, brand new city manager. So that's, let's do that. I didn't like some of the things I was hearing. I don't know if some of those policy or actual decisions about the city, it didn't sound like HR or evaluation things to me that somebody should be graded down on, but maybe they are. I don't know, because I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that document at all. Anyway, lanes, procedures, and policies, and staying in your lane, that sometimes sounds really offensive. Stay in your lane. I don't think anybody likes to be told that. Sometimes it's important, though, to do it. There are procedures and policies, and they don't just go for people who are sitting around this table or these tables sitting in this room. They go for people who are outside as well, people who reside in the city of Albion and who try to make undue influence on those who are sitting up here, who are elected officials and some of our people that we pay to run the city for us. And I don't think that sort of influence is good either. So if we're going to tell people to stay in their lanes, I think there are some people over on campus that could use that advice just as well. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Dave Atchison, 108 West Erie. I wanted to talk to you about special council meetings. And I'll say it's been pretty good. You've only had 3 the whole, it's almost been a year now, you've had 3. Let's quickly talk about those 3. We had one in August. Last speaker was there, I was there. That was not pleasant. Some questions were asked why all of a sudden you have special meetings, and then there was one July 29th, nothing controversial there. But the first one that you had was called Friday afternoon on the 23rd of April, and you had everybody come back in here at 9 o'clock the next morning, about 18 hours notice, which is the minimum, didn't met that. But the topic was to get in here, and as a couple of you, I think Mary, you might have been one, explain tried to rubber stamp Albion College proposal. I wish you would all think back to the questions that were raised by the mayor, the concerns that the mayor raised about there's no guarantees for some of these things. What happened if something changes, like the Battle Creek YMCA pulls out? And what was the rest of judgment? You had a member of the public that stood up and asked that question, and I was very happy that it did. So I'd like to know what was the urgency. And then I would point out, if you think back to that meeting, there were multiple council members that were pretty adamant, we are not endorsing a location. This is just to show our support for public-private partnership. Okay, well, I'm going to read to you what took place, and how I even figured out that meeting happened is because I was looking at public school board meetings, and on the 26th, which was Monday, the question was asked by one of the trustees, hey, anybody know what happened at the council meeting? To which Mr. Lindsay, the president, he responded, there was a special meeting of the council was called. They voted on its support of Albion College as the location of the new proposed elementary school. So if you think you've been misquoted, if you think you've been used, if you think Mr. Lindsay was inaccurate, which is what you said at the time, I think you ought to hold him accountable. And I think the city council should communicate formally to the Board of Education and have to go back and look at the educational ethics. They have an obligation to be accurate in information that's presented to the public. Okay, so when the council says, no, we're not saying anything about the location, and the president of the board says, yeah, they endorse the college as a location, that's not accurate. That's not ethical. And that's not good for the community. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to stand and address the council? Okay. Mayor and council.
Mayor, did you check online?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do.
Can you hear me?
Please state your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. Thank you. I was trying to comment during the first public comment, but was unable. I was not unmuted. So a couple of things. I'm just gonna be very frank. So having been involved in the politics of the community, right now, what I see in this moment and kind of watching the council is there are probably, I guess, even with the departure of Councilmember Clark, but there were probably 5 or 4 votes that had a similar viewpoint about the future of the community. And there were probably 2 votes, the mayor and Councilman Williamson, who had a certain kind of view of the community. And I think the more I talk to residents, the more I just hear, it seems to me that a lot of the division in the council is really, to be honest, the divisiveness of one particular council member. And like when I look at the evaluations, you know, I remember Councilmember French used to do that, put all 5s, but that's just as disingenuous as you trying to call out the other council members, right? Because that's not accurate. So I think that what Attorney Scott Smith has suggested to previous councils was that really the manager works for the entire council. And that would be something that I would advise the manager to really consider going forward is if there's a question, if there's a meeting, if there's information that comes to you, if a council member asks you a question, if you have a meeting with one council member, whatever that meeting is entailing, you need to share it with the rest of your council members, because not one council member is more important than the other. And so I think what happens is, it seems to me, because this happened to me, is that the manager and 1 or 2 council members would meet, have conversations, and would come out with a strategy to basically make the other council members look bad when they were just trying to do their job. So I think what I would advise going forward is the manager really just be open and direct about any information coming in or coming out with you, with your entire board, so that you don't get in a position where one council member is causing a division amongst the council and it's making the council members look bad when they're actually doing their jobs. The last thing I would say is I didn't get to watch the entire presentation, but I do feel the council should look into whether or not the way in which the Councilmember Williamson's role with the Community Foundation as council seat presents any kind of conflict, right? Because the question becomes, in his role, if you bring in a donation, do you get a bonus? Is that a condition of employment? These are questions that should be answered. So there is an issue there. And finally, just a housekeeping question. When's the deadline for the first precinct seat? Because that wasn't indicated on the city website. Thank you.
Yeah, and more.
Hello, Allie Priami from Freetown East Michigan Avenue. I've been listening to the rhetoric coming out of last Marshall Public School Board meeting and again tonight. The multiple I don't knows from the members of Marshall Public School Board leadership is disconcerting. The continued lack of knowledge from those who should have the answers is alarming and does not instill confidence in this project. It makes me think this project has not been appropriately planned. When they say the data is unusable, yet there are multiple samples and all point to the Watson location, yet from what I witnessed tonight, it raised a red flag. And I wonder, are those who make the decisions listening or just waiting for their turn to speak? It is very unfair to ask this community to accept a multi-million-dollar school bond, especially in the way it has been presented to them and during a global pandemic. My suggestion to those who don't know, go back to the drawing board, plan effectively and present a bond that doesn't happen during a pandemic and puts kids first. Respectfully, thank you.
So, Councilman Lawler did send a message to City Manager Snyder that she was going to be absent this evening. So do I have a motion?
You're on City Manager report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped totally over that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So a copy of my report was included in the packet. The first, second, third wild and park rescues project. I'm happy to share that that project has been complete. The final walkthrough took place on Friday, September 24th. I was able to participate in that. So I did get out and see the area. It looks great. So I'm sure all the residents who live in the area are happy that that project is now complete. Our Amtrak railroad crossing closures, I received notice last Tuesday, September 28th, that maintenance work will be performed on railroad crossings by Amtrak beginning sometime during this week. It did not provide an exact date. The work will result in closure of the roads at the crossings only. All of the traffic will be detoured. Due to the proximity of these crossings, there could be multiple crossings closed at one time. So we just ask for patience and follow the detour routes that will be put up. The closure period will likely last 1 to 3 days. And then the following crossings are scheduled for maintenance: 29.5 Mile Road, Hannah Street, Erie Street, Cash Street, possibly Superior Street, Monroe Street, North Clinton, Eaton, North Albion, and V Drive North. Sidewalk project update. The first progress meeting for the current sidewalk project took place last Thursday, September 30th. For some reason, the minutes did not push through with the packet, so they have been provided to everyone at your seats, and then we will post them online for the public. That project continues to make way, so we're happy to see some of those crossings being completed. I attended the MML convention, was it last week? Weeks are starting to run together. ARPA was a big topic of discussion. That is the American Rescue Plan Act. So the funds that we are anticipated to receive, I believe the city is, we are expected to receive a little over $800,000. So we are very excited to receive those funds. However, through assistance with this, the National League of Cities has launched a free grant navigation program to assist municipal staff in collecting the necessary data and apply for federal grants under ARPA. There is a ton of federal money out there right now, and at MML, the community, they stress this is the time to take advantage of all of those grants, because we may not even have to spend from our ARPA funds. There are so many opportunities out there. And this grant service is free of charge to local municipalities. So I have signed the city of Albion up. I'm excited to receive more feedback, and information, and we will be participating in that program because we have an abundance of needs here in our community. The Albion Leadership Academy, I have been selected to participate in the first cohort of the Albion Leadership Academy. This is supported by Castor Concept and Castor Cares in partnership with Humanity. Yes. So the Albion Leadership Academy is a 12-month program. Each month features a 4-hour program day. These days will be a combination of training, peer coaching, expert panels, and discussion. The first session is scheduled to begin on October 11th, so I'm very excited to be participating in this program and working along some of our local leaders. And that is all I have.
All right, do we have a motion to excuse Councilwoman Law? Oh my gosh. Mayor and Councilman comments. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Just a few follow-up things. I wanted to say this earlier and I forgot, but I hope it's clear how much I appreciate our city manager, the administration of our city, and our residents for sticking, well, first of all, for being here tonight, but for being in our community, for paying taxes, for sticking through the many storms that our city has had to weather. And as I was considering all the things that I wanted to share tonight, I wanted to just acknowledge what an honor it is for our city manager to be born and raised in this community and to now serve in the role of serving the entire community at large. Is no easy task, and I think, yeah, there's just not enough to be said about the issues that we're all faced with right now and how we all support one another and we're consistent when we say what it means to be empathetic and support and recognize that all of us are a coherent body that have to work together in order for that to be effective. I want to thank everyone who came to the town hall / study session interactive meeting before this meeting tonight. It was held at the Marshall Opportunity High School. We were able to look at some of the goals that the city has created and think about the future and moving forward and how we will address the different needs. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to engage amongst the community. So I just ask that everyone stay tuned for those opportunities as they will be coming out in the coming months. And the last thing I want to say, just in terms of us being accountable for supporting the city manager and the mayor and all of the leaders in our community, the more specific we can be, I hear you both when you said specific things, but the more specific asks that we can make one another, the more clear and readily accessible we can move forward in that way. So I'm just asking for us to, if whatever we can do, please let us know. Thank you.
I thought I would just address any concern related to my employment. I'm employed, my day job is executive director of the Community Foundation. I'm very proud to serve there. That's a recent development. And I'm also an internationally recognized certified fundraising executive, and to hold that credential, you have to adhere to a strict set of ethics and policies. One of those being that you are not rewarded based on how much money you raise, but on your key metrics and performance measures in your position, just like any of us in any of our roles for employment. So just to be clear, well, I respect that there is a misconception in the fundraising field. Sometimes people get paid based on how much they raise. I'm on record here several times, and I wish Councilmember Clark was still here because back when we were talking about a grant writer, there was a suggestion that we were going to pay them by how much money they bring in. And I was like, oh, no, we can't do that. That's actually against all sorts of ethical standards in fundraising. So just to be clear, I am not compensated or giving any additional compensated based on how much money I raise. I am compensated for the performance in my job function as the Community Foundation Executive Director. In addition to that, I want to unequivocally state that I have zero control over the grant decisions that the Community Foundation makes. So I am a mere process person within inside the foundation. I process applications and hand them to a grants committee that is controlled by the community and then finally goes to the board. And so I just help get the grants to where they need to be. They are decided upon and then I pay them out with Denise Porter as our office manager. And so just to be clear, there is absolutely zero impropriety here. And further, I have consulted throughout my work with the DeNicholas, with our city attorney, to make sure that there were no clear conflicts that could have taken place, and was forthcoming with all of this information from the beginning to make sure that we didn't cross any lines. So I just want to continue to state that, and if there are any questions, please feel free to call, email, talk to any of my trustees. The Community Foundation, we have a really great group of people who are on that board. And then of course, our committee members for the DeNicholas Family Gift. So again, any questions, I'm ready to be as transparent as ever with you all, and have always been, so thank you.
And I was actually going to say, each of us elected officials have full-time jobs. Other than Councilwoman Reed, who is retired, and so she's very, engaged in the community, very, yeah, so, I mean, she, her volunteerism keeps her very busy, but the rest of us, we have full-time jobs. And so to, call out Councilman Williamson because he's doing his job is unfair. The trustees also have full-time jobs, so there's nobody like Mandy Compo who doesn't have a full-time job, who's on the trustee. So if it wasn't for Shane, who would work with donors to bring money to our community? He was just here because he is a director. That's his job. If something came up that Jackson College was working in collaboration with the community, I'd be the one up there speaking because I'm the only person in the admissions office at Jackson College. So that would be my position. So to call us up because we also have full-time jobs is unfair. So I was just gonna say that. Any other questions or comments from council?
Does that go along with the fact that we were told that because the college put up Highland Park, that I was in conflict, and Vicky, because she had a business cleaning two buildings at the college, that she was in conflict, and that Nora, because her group had their meetings at the school up here, that she was in conflict?
So you were in conflict with,
that we were in conflict, that we were too much involved with the college, but that's a job. Vicky's is a job. Everybody's is a job except for me. And mine, I just work for free for everybody.
Councilman Lincoln.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I think there is a lot to be said about all of us understanding these different concepts. Whoa. Excuse me. With regard to the conflicts of interest, my understanding as our city attorney has provided to all of us, it's a matter of disclosure. If there is a conflict of interest, which in a small town there are often conflicts of interest, it is a matter of disclosing that information at the time. It's not a matter of someone having to resign because there is a conflict of interest. So I heard that brought up multiple times, so I wanted to go on record. But Attorney Martinez, please clarify if there is anything at any point that is wrong, but it's a matter of disclosing when there is a conflict of interest.
So under our charter and under our ethics rules, any person who has a direct or indirect financial conflict of interest is required by charter to disclose it and to abstain from voting on that particular issue. If a council member doesn't disclose that, there's nothing prohibiting any other member of council from bringing up what they perceive to be a direct or indirect conflict of interest, and then the remaining members of council would vote on that to determine whether or not that council member should be excused. Aside from financial conflicts of interest, for just a general conflict of interest, the same procedure would apply. Any member of council can raise it as a potential issue, and then that issue has to be decided before the body votes on it.
Thank you. I also just wanted, do you have something else?
No, I was just gonna say, so it goes to when we vote.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not voting matters. I just wanted to also say with all of the different things that were brought up multiple times about the Marshall Public Schools bond, that again, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Opportunity High School in the library, they will be having discussions and opportunities to ask questions. So that's an opportunity to learn more.
Now, do I get to have a motion to excuse Councilmember Love?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Panu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Reed. To adjourn.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Panu,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes.